You see, Paul talks about grace and apostleship for bringing the nations into the obedience of the faith. Right? Now, we have to understand that we do not just preach the gospel of the forgiveness of sins. We don't just preach the gospel that you get to go to heaven when you die, but we preach the gospel of the kingdom of God in Jesus Christ. And one of the problems that we have in the church is that we throw out so much of the Bible. But I had all these questions that I couldn't get answered. Even questions like, what is the church supposed to be doing? How is society supposed to be structured? I would look out at the problems that are facing the world, and in the New Testament alone, I couldn't get the answers or the solutions. And then I started studying very diligently the Old Testament, and it was like the light had finally dawned, and all of a sudden, all the missing pieces of the puzzle were left right before my eyes, and I saw it. And there are some practical ways of putting it that I found very helpful. For example, one of the ways that God describes the statutes and decrees that he gives, just for time's sake, I'm going to skip a lot of passages that I had written out, and I'm just going to paraphrase, so you'll forgive me. But many of the ways that he contrasts it is, you were slaves in the land of Egypt. And then he gave his statutes and decrees to create a social architecture that is the exact opposite of the slavery of the world. And that social architecture was not just, here's how you do church. It included church. But it also included, here's how you'll govern. Here is how your families will be run. It had something to say to every area of life. He was infected with it. He longed for it. And yet, he was still a foreigner to it. Until Acts 10, verse 3. About the 9th hour of the day, while Cornelius was praying, he saw clearly in a vision an angel of God coming and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he observed him, he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? So he said to him, your prayers and your alms have come up for a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa and send for Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodging with Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the sea. He will tell you what you must do. You see, that dream of the kingdom so infected Cornelius that he started to hunger and thirst for righteousness. He saw the beauty of holiness so completely that it was the deepest longing in his heart. That's why Paul said that the ministry of Moses had glory, but the new covenant had more glory. Because it doesn't fade. Because we who were far off have been brought near. We've been reconciled by his blood. And as George said last week, it's now Christ in us.